Are you looking to take the next step toward investing in commercial real estate but don't know where to go? CRE Central offers a comprehensive education and coaching platform designed to help you get started. Our online courses cover a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals to advanced strategies, ensuring you have the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in this competitive industry. As a member, you'll gain access to our exclusive online community and monthly group coaching calls, providing you with valuable networking opportunities and personalized guidance from experienced professionals. Whether you're a beginner or looking to take your career to the next level, CRE Central has the resources you need. Visit www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. We are live from the Cobble Group Studios here in East Nashville for an awesome conversation today with my good buddy, Andrew Steffens. He is the market director of Wood Partners here in Nashville and is responsible for, we had talked about 2,500 apartment units, but now it's probably closer to 3,500.
Yeah, 3,200, 3,500.
That's a lot of apartments.
It's a lot of houses.
Yeah. It's a lot of housing. I love it, man. You're making a dent in the affordable housing issues. So he got his start right out of Vanderbilt Owen with Citi, then moved into multifamily development with Alliance, and then you were at, I think, was it RAM for a little bit, and then you got into Wood Partners, and now you're kind of doing your own deals, man. I know that's a very brief history and background on yourself, but tell us how you got here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Have enjoyed kind of keeping up with your career and all that you do online and on the socials and everything. So fun to kind of have fun for an old guy to get his first taste of this. But I graduated from University of Tennessee with a poli-sci major, applied to law school, got accepted to law school, but you could pay like $950 to defer 1 year. So I decided I'd come to Nashville and just kind of take a break, have some fun. Still had a girlfriend back in Knoxville, and started having so much fun in Nashville that I decided that I didn't want to go to law school. My brother was there the year that I didn't go, so his first year, and I'm just like, you got to read how many pages tonight? I'm like, I don't read that in a year.
That's probably the best $950 investment you've ever made.
Yeah, I did have to pay it. My dad fronted the money. I had to pay him back. But got into commercial insurance. So basically that was my kind of job right out of undergrad. Brainless, just meaningless job. Hated it. Very boring. I was a producer, making pretty good money, but knew that I needed to find something else to do. My dad was a builder and developer. So it's kind of in my blood, and decided to go back and get my master's if I could get in, and then just use that as an opportunity to switch careers. And I applied actually to be in the executive program at Vandy, and felt like I had everything that I needed to get in there. And they called me and they're like, hey, you probably don't have enough management experience to do the executive program, but you potentially could be a candidate for the full-time program. And at that point, I hadn't really decided if I wanted to go full-time. Full-time was a lot harder to get into. But I just said, oh, well, let's go for it. Applied. And then they came back and said, you got to get, your score up a little bit on the GMAT. I did that, got in, and the rest is history. So studied real estate and finance while I was there, which I had no background in. In fact, I remember them talking about building models, and I didn't even know what that meant. So at the ripe age of 28 years old, about to get into real estate and finance, I didn't really know how to use Excel. But
Owen goes hard on it too.
Yeah,
because they go straight into financial modeling. They don't even teach you about commercial real estate. It's like, no, we're going to talk about cap rates today and start modeling it out.
Yeah, jumped right into it, and it was good. good trial by fire, good way to just kind of be forced to get good at it quickly, or you were going to fail out. So ended up, kind of being able to find that skill set. Had a great time at Owen, and then graduated. And I was there during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. So being safe in the business school was kind of nice to be in that location during all that. But then you got to get a job. It was really tough to get a job, and kind of interesting statistic back then. This is 2010. 40% of the class of 200 people So 80 people were trying to stay in Nashville and get a job, which is kind of remarkable. But it was the vibe was fun in Nashville and in that class. So and I wanted to stay. So I'm like, well, damn, I'm not in the top half of these 80 people. I hope I can scrap a job, but was able to with Citigroup, and I was in their finance and underwriting department for tax credit lending. So, kind of an okay job, making the typical amount that you would make out of business school, nothing great. Hated it, was very very bored, traveling to all corners of the country, looking at kind of crappy rundown deals, and all the while looking for a development job. And then, as luck would have it, Alliance Residential had basically shut down their Atlanta office during the GFC and then brought back their junior guy, this guy named Bob Weston. And Bob was in charge of covering Nashville out of Atlanta. And that's how all the institutional guys used to do it, cover it out of Atlanta or Charlotte. And they couldn't ever get a deal going here. Bob kind of had the vision, being like, there is institutional investment that wants to be there. We got to get a deal done. Let's just find somebody there. Found me, had the banking background, the finance background, but not the development background. And the response to that was essentially, you're very connected here. You've been here a while. You're a really social guy, and you understand the city, and you go out a lot and party. You're our guy. And we'll teach you the development side. And so that was it. I cut my teeth at Alliance on the development side, kind of development management. Came in as a development manager and really learned the project management side. But it was my role right off the bat to source sites, and then using their Rolodex then, having these institutional investors come in from New Jersey or LA and San Francisco, DC, and I would tour them around and tell them what we were going to do and try to convince them to give us their money. And this was, Nashville 2013, 14, 15, kind of on the rise. Land was available. Land was cheap.
It was a different market.
Yeah, just a whole different world. And, had I known, I would have done every deal I could possibly do. Now, Alliance would have never let me. Alliance always saw Nashville as kind of a tertiary market, which is ultimately why I left. Did kind of 3.5 deals with them, left while the third deal was wrapping up construction. The fourth deal was getting started with construction. And then I just kind of needed to get out from underneath that team. And Ram was looking to do the same thing, open an office here. My stipulation was, look, I want to build a team. Nashville is going to be a bigger market than most people think. And they said, okay, and worked for them and started their office here, got 2 deals under contract, both of them financed. And then Wood Partners kind of showed up and just said, look, we're going to make this opportunity equal to the opportunity that all of our full-time partners have. It's a better deal than you have now. We believe in you, and we'll support you to actually build an office here, and it'll be our 19th office under Wood Partners. And you'll report to the guy out of Orlando, so not Atlanta, not tertiary. It's like you're one of our offices. And it's been great. Really great culture, supportive executives, great partnership, and they've really, let me punch the gas and get some deals done. So I think I did, call it 3.5 of the Alliance, 2. Really just did 1 deal with Ram. The other one kind of came with me when I left. The 2 it was an assemblage, and of the 2 sellers, one of them was very committed to me and said, look, if you're leaving Ram, I'm not doing the deal with Ram. He had an out in the contract, punted, and I ended up getting that deal done, actually over here in East Nashville. So, and then since I've been at Wood, I think we're under construction with our 8th and 9th right now, wrapping up 6 and 7, coming out of the ground with 8 and 9. So it's been great. It's been fun. It's been crazy to watch the city change as much as it did and as much as it has in the last 11 years. It was a town, right? I mean, you grew up here.
Small town.
Yeah, it was a town when I got started, and now it's a city. So, you kind of take the good, the great, the bad, the ugly with that. But obviously, being a developer, I'm pro-growth and love to see the city grow. We've got some growing pains that obviously we're going to work through, and every city does. But it's been a fun ride. Multifamily development. I tend to be a little bit more creative, and I appreciate the design side of the business, and multifamily is diverse enough. Not necessarily right now, and we can get into that, but where I've gotten to do some really cool stuff. Focusing on unit design, but more so amenity design.
Yeah.
The very first deal I did, which was over in Germantown, had a really cool capital partner, big name, but don't want to bring that up. But and the guy, kind of the relationship manager, was real into music, and I'm like, well, I'm real into music, and it's kind of years process talking through all this, and I think over our 8th bourbon, I pitched the idea of putting a music venue on top of the parking deck. And he's like, well, what's it going to cost? And I just kind of threw a number out there. I think I told him $1.5 million. I think it ended up costing $1.7 million, but it didn't matter.
Hey, that's a pretty good stab in the dark.
Yeah, just
After
kind of,
8 bourbons.
I did, and I knew way less, way less than I know now. But and he's just said, screw it, let's do it under the condition that you get somebody big to play the grand opening. And I, as a developer would, said, no problem, I got that.
Yeah.
So we did this music venue. The space turned out great. Had the big ass fans when they were kind of first new, and put this really expensive sound system in. Hired a guy that I knew in the industry that helped us design the sound system, and had the view of downtown. It was great. And then to follow up with my end of the bargain, before Jason Isbell won any Grammys, where he would have been way too expensive, we were able to get him to play
That's amazing.
a 75-minute set up there for 500 people. Some residents that lived in the building, it was kind of a lottery system. So most of the residents that were living there got to come, and then some real estate guys, obviously our capital partners, plenty of Alliance guys came because they want, and it was a very up close and personal experience with that. So anyway, get to do a lot of cool stuff. Golf simulators. We're wrapping up a project right now that's got a 4-court pickleball stadium essentially in the middle of it. So it's a 14-acre site. There's 7 buildings, and kind of in the middle of the 7 buildings, it's about a $2 million pickleball facility.
That's amazing.
Will that work? We don't know yet. The deal's leasing up pretty good. The pickleball courts are not done yet, which I'm ticked about, but they'll be done in about a month. But all the kind of pickleball associations have read about it in the paper. They're reaching out saying, hey, we want to do this partnership, this tournament, whatnot. But it'll be a really nice facility, 2 and 2 in the middle. You've got fire pit, bar, TVs, seating area, stadium seating all around it. So, that's the side of the business that I love, and love seeing that kind of stuff come together, as I know you do too. So that gets me up in the morning and gets me excited about the job.
Yeah, it's so much fun to get to do things like that. You should talk to ULI, do a ULI event, pickleball courts, development company versus development company. That'd be a fun.
Can you help with that?
Yeah, right. I'm all in. Let's do it.
Good.
Okay, I want to take it back a bit. I mean, you've had such an amazing career when it comes to real estate development, but I want to go back to what piqued your interest in multifamily development specifically, because a lot of people, when they'll go through Van Yoen and they take these finance and real estate classes, typically they start looking at, okay, let's go into investment banking. Let's go into private equity. You took a bit of a different route, which, I mean, hey, it's the route I would have taken. But what piqued your interest about multifamily development?
Good question. And a little bit timing, a little bit right place or wrong place, and then a little bit just kind of what felt comfortable. So I did go to New York between that summer, and I mean I did some interviewing around New York at investment banks, but the reality was, especially during the recession, there was some really smart Wall Street washouts that ended up in business schools across the country, and that was my competition, and I wasn't going to be able to compete against those guys. They understood financial modeling and financial structuring and they'd been doing it since they were 25 years old. Here I am 30 years old. So I really wasn't going to be able to compete with those guys. Not to mention, I entered business school very focused on being very studious, which I had never really been in my life. I'm kind of one of those guys that, does enough but never more.
You show up and you get a B.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And that's good enough. That's how I am.
3-0. So, because of that, I wasn't gonna graduate in the top 10%, and that kind of takes you off the board for a lot of those kind of bigger companies. And then, right place with multifamily, I just kind of, again, the reason that I was selected, part of the reason I was selected is I had a good network when I met the Alliance guy. I mean, he was impressed. I actually have kind of a funny story I'll tell, but, he was just impressed with the amount of people that I knew in Nashville. And he was a multifamily guy, not an office guy or anything else. So, I mean, that just kind of, I fell into that. And then also just the sticks and the bricks and the creative side of it was very comfortable. I grew up going to job sites with my dad. My dad, had bundles and bundles of blueprints in the back of his Bronco growing up. So it's like I had grown up around it, and it felt comfortable. But I think the moment I got hired, the moment that Bob Weston decided to hire me, was I think we had lunch. We had toured around the city. I'm a banker. I'd probably taken the day off, and then we go to drinks at the Hutton Hotel, which was, kind of the place back then. And we're talking, and it's going well. I don't have a job yet, but we're walking out, and there's a group of 3 girls sitting at the table kind of by the door, all very dressed up and looking nice. It just so happens that I know one of them, and she's like, Steffens. And we start, Bob and I start talking to these 3 beautiful women about to go out in Nashville, and the conversation ends, and we're walking out the Hutton Hotel, and he kind of looks at me. And at that moment, I was like, "Yeah, I just got that job." It's like, "Yeah, you're plugged in here. You're the right kind of fit for what, ultimately we need somebody that is going to be able to find us land, negotiate land, and understand where young people want to live." And I think for whatever reason, that sealed the deal for him.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty impressive, because when you're getting into development, I mean, one thing that I hear from the audience quite a bit is it's really tough to get a foot in the door. But I think a couple of the biggest takeaways that I just heard from you is having the modeling skill set, being able to actually dig into spreadsheets and underwrite deals, and then being able to talk to people.
100%.
Just getting out, connecting people. Like, you didn't know anything about development.
Nothing.
You had grown up around construction similar to I did, but probably never picked up a hammer and worked on a job site, right?
Not much.
Yeah. I mean, so at least not a 250 unit apartment complex.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like you don't even have to have this wide array of skill sets if you're able to break in and bring something to the table that somebody that's doing it finds valuable.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk early on with the learning curve and drinking from a fire hose, and that is the case. There's a million things to know in development, and then there's a million more that you don't know that you could potentially learn just based on what happens with that particular deal. But the Vanderbilt, the Owen piece kind of certified me to know enough about finance and modeling and underwriting. But it was the network and the ability to deal with, talk to, read, and understand people. And that's the skill that you can't avoid using in this business.
Right.
Whether it's a fire marshal down at the city that you're waiting for approval, and it's just at the bottom of their stack and they're in the middle of lunch, or a stormwater guy, or a city council person, or a landowner, or a capital partner, or your boss, our CEO. I mean, and you wear a lot of hats, or going down to a construction site. I mean, my second deal. The plans weren't great, and there was a lot of holes in them. I was here alone on my second, probably my 3rd year of the job. I didn't really know how to solve them other than put a hard hat on, go buy some work boots, and start going to the job site and walking around with the superintendent and be like, "What questions do you have?" And he's like, "Well, this wall is not designed. What do you want to do?" And figuring that out, and then walking, around the other side of the site, and this retaining wall and these windows, and this doesn't all coordinate, and we can't wait on the architect because he's taking forever. Let's just figure it out now. And I'm like, well, okay, I know a little bit about construction, and I understand that we got to figure it out because we can't wait. So let's just go. So it's the ability to wear different hats and to communicate with people across the spectrum of the job functions of construction and development. I think that is more important than anything. I mean, in reality, I don't do a whole lot of underwriting anymore because I have a team, and they're better at me than at that now. But of course, that was a basic skill that I had to pretty much master in my first 7 years of doing this role. So, but it's the people skills and, just the ability to read somebody's face when things are about to go south and be able to stop that and pivot, or, the ability to communicate with anything from a generational farm owner to a Middle Eastern junkyard owner to a very sophisticated New York bank, all three of which own pieces of land that I want, and that you talk to all those people in very different ways. And without land, you can't develop. So, it's anyway, that I'm kind of rambling, but that's, it's the people skills that I think is super important in this job.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta know how and understand how to meet people where they are, right? No matter what background or anything, no matter where they come from. One thing that you said that I think is really interesting to point out is that you were jumping in on the job sites, walking around with the superintendents, asking the questions. And one thing that I've always felt like is commercial real estate and commercial real estate development, it's like learning a second language. Oh, yeah. Can you read it, or can you learn it by reading a book? Can you learn it by listening to somebody talk about it? Can you learn it by watching videos? Sure. But when you immerse yourself in that language and that's all that you hear day in and day out, you learn it so much faster. Yeah. So I think it's important to pull that out. We've got a question from Stan Conway. Stan, what's going on, man? Good to see you. He's down in Miami. Stan, love the podcast. Stan was actually up here not too long ago. He's a developer down there. Okay. As well. He's saying, what are the rents for these projects that you were talking about earlier? Are rents growing, plateau? Thanks. I think that'll kind of put things in context.
Sure, yeah.
Where did they start back in 2019 compared to where they are today?
That's a great question. So I actually was thinking about this podcast this morning and went back and looked and underwrote Broadstone Germantown at that day's rent, which would have been 13 or probably 2013 at $1,750. So that would have been like $1.80, $1.75, and that's an urban deal where there are certainly developers out there trying to get urban deals, even urban stick frame deals, so 5 stories and below, capitalized at like $3. Now that deal today is probably $250. We at Wood Partners, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I feel like about when I left Alliance and joined RAM was, it's maybe not the most prudent strategic decision to just battle it out in the urban core. And I wanted to kind of do what I call edge urban, and then of course suburban. So edge urban being instead of 5-story structured parking, 6-story structured parking, you're getting 6, 7, 8 acres, and you can do a 4-story, very well and highly amenitized deal, but it's all surface park, and you're saving $5-6 million on the overall hard cost budget. So urban rents, edge urban rents, suburban rents. Suburban rents, which is really we're focused on suburban right now, just kind of given where things are, right? Inflation, the cost to build is really high. Obviously, the cost to borrow is really high. And then, if you own land within 3 miles of downtown Nashville, your land is worth what the guy 4 offers ago said he was going to pay you, even though that deal didn't go and the next 4 didn't go, but it's still worth that. So, suburban's been kind of a target of ours over the last 18 months. And those rents, kind of the most basic product that we can build, still has a pool, fitness, club room, and all the Class A amenities, but just all the bells and whistles and all the, the creative fun stuff is a little bit more stripped out of that deal. And that deal we can get done for about $1,700 on 900 feet. So what is that, $1.70?
Almost, just under 2.
Okay, yeah. So that's where rents are for suburban, and then for the urban stuff we're looking at right now. There's not a lot of deals in Nashville that are getting north of 2,300, which is 260, 270. They need to be. There's
Yeah, it's the only way to make them pencil is at that rate.
That's right. But
can people pay it?
Can people pay it? Will they pay it? Right now, they're not paying it because there's 6,000 units in lease up. A lot of units in lease up, and people can negotiate and bounce around. I mean, it's certainly a renter's market right now. Luckily, we don't have any deals delivering in the urban core right now, and we're not battling it out with anybody. But there's a lot of people. There's a lot of blood in the water. There's 2 months, 3 months, even 4 months free on some of this more urban stuff in Nashville. So tough story right now. It'll all flush through. If you count the number of multifamily permits that have been issued in the past 12 months, that's less than all of the permits in Q3 of 2022. So
wow.
It's stopped, and that's because you can't get deals financed. So
sounds like the Fed rate hikes are working.
That's right. That's it. The Fed rate hikes are working. There's a lot of supply in Nashville, but it will get absorbed. It's going to take 12 months.
Yeah.
And we're going to be feeling the pain for those 12 months. But once, that's flushed through, it'll kind of loosen up. And, we're not stopping. One of the advantages of being with an institutional developer is we're a low leverage company. Our deals are typically levered between 50 and 60%. So 50% seems crazy, but because of that, because we are a very safe company, guess who's still in business?
We are.
Yeah, we can still get construction loans. And because of the experience and our track record of success, we still have equity that wants to do deals too. Now the box has gotten smaller, but they're still there.
Yeah, we have that conversation on this podcast all the time. It's like I would rather be at 50% on every single deal. Now that I am where I am, I mean, when you're first getting started, you're like, hell yeah, let's go 90%.
Why not? Yeah.
If I can find it, if somebody's going to give me the money, I'll do it.
It's great until it's not.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the problem. It's it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it can cut the other way, pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm obviously not in multifamily. I come from the development side. From an outside perspective, it seems to me like Nashville is in 2017 again in terms of the amount of units that have been delivered, the blood in the water, the amenities, free rent, abatement, all of that kind of stuff that multifamily developers are giving. I mean, you've been in the market since then. Does it feel the same way to you? Is this something that's, hey, this is just a normal cycle, it'll be down for 12 months and we're moving on?
Yes and no. It's a normal cycle, and 12 months from now it'll feel different, better. 17 was not as dramatic as this. As far as just the product and supply, there's so much supply. Alliance Residential in 2012 was very forward thinking and saying, we got to have a guy there. Let's open an office there. Everybody's got an office here now. Right. I was a small fish in a small pond, small fish waving a big flag in a small pond in 2012. But now every development company, certainly on the east half of the country, has sent someone here and moved them here, found somebody here, and with that has come some marginal deals. We got to just get one going so we can get the fees, keep the office going. But that attitude, I think, has really, has affected the amount of supply that is in the urban core. I mean, we've just got a lot of available apartments, empty apartments that are getting leased up and getting absorbed. But if I look back and I kind of think about the math, when I first got in the business, Nashville was starting to grow, but it wasn't nearly what it is today. And we needed about 3,000, 3,500 units a year. So, I do a deal, that's 350 units, and 9 other guys do it, and that's good. I'd say 4 or 5 years later, we needed about 4,500 units a year. I think today we probably need about 6,000, 6,500 units a year. Mm-hmm. And I think in 2023 and 2022, it was like 16,000 units were delivered in those 18 months. And they just didn't, it's all timing, right? And they just didn't all get absorbed. Of course, the fact that Oracle, hadn't really started on their campus. I mean, a lot of people were banking on that. I mean, hell, you look across the river, and MRP's got that massive deal sitting in the middle of nothing. Yeah. And it's leasing up. I mean, it's trying to lease up. They were banking on Oracle to show up, and I think it's 700 units. So that's an extreme case, but you got a lot of that going on. in Nashville right now. But we will be back for sure. I mean, we're a very, the 6 pillars of the economy here. We have things that others don't: government, employees, education. That a lot of major cities don't have to the extent that we have. So we can work around these blips, and I mean, we came screaming out of 17, 18, and
it was a slingshot.
That's right. And what I'm trying to talk to people about is, that scared us, Alliance, back then, and we really hit the brakes for 6 months. I mean, they told me, don't pursue anything for 6 months. We don't want to spend any money. Let's just see how this whole thing shakes out. That was actually the moment when I should have been going after deals, because the timing is such that we would have delivered in a window when nobody else was delivering deals. And you would have been the newest, shiniest object in the market and nobody to compete against. So I think that, there's some truth to that right now. So we are still very much, pursuing deals. Now, you can't overpay for land and, have the cost of borrow and construction costs where they are and make that deal work. But if you work hard enough, which is what I preach to my team, is there are opportunities. We just got to work really hard to find them. And when we find them, we will put these deals together and deliver when nobody else can.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a deal that delivered here in East Nashville. I can name 4 or 5 pieces of property right off the top of my head that are still sitting there. Nobody did anything with them. And you think about the opportunity or the position that puts you all in for the next few years. You guys are going to be the new kid on the block, which is a phenomenal place to really be as an apartment developer, because you're not competing with the older product. You're competing with the new kid that comes on the block that has another. I mean, at the end of the day, multifamily seems like it's an arms race for amenities.
Yeah.
And so, y'all are going to be well positioned there for the next few years, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and it's all about basis and, what did you really build it for and what is it really worth? We're still selling stuff at sub 5 cap rates here in Nashville, which there are a lot of markets that are getting hit a lot worse. And yeah, I mean, it is a race. It is an arms race sometimes, but I will say, I think the best way to be successful in my seat is just to keep going, and the box changes. The box of the things that we can do change. Maybe I'm not building Lexus SUVs anymore, and I'm building Kias because that's what people can buy right now. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. Let's just pivot and let's get to Kia, not let our ego get in the way, and let's just focus on that, be really good at that, and then when we see things change, see things start to change, we can get back to building Lexus SUVs. So, but just keep going and getting deals done. There are deals, ultimately, if we build a deal for $1 and sell it for $3, I do better than if we build a deal for $1 and sell it for $2. But you cannot time the market. And there are deals that I worked on and that are great deals, good communities. People love living there. The amenities are awesome. The location's awesome. But because of this, that, and the other, and the market, that deal is not, it lost 25% of value or some, meaningful value when rates went up. So we can't control that. But if you just keep throwing darts or you just keep playing the game and not worry about time in the market, then, eventually you will have a string of good deals and then the market will fall apart again. And it'll, but as long as you're just in the game. So that's the strategy that I preach to my team. We just got to stay in the game. Let's just, do volume. And when it's time to do really cool deals and do music venues on top of parking decks, we'll get back to that. But right now is probably not the time.
Yeah. I mean, I tell my team the same thing. It's like, let's just go for the singles. I don't even care about the doubles. Let's go for the singles. Yeah. Let's keep the ball in play. And, when it comes back, we'll go for triples and home runs again. But right now is not that time. Yeah. It's a matter of, let's just keep the lights on. Let's just keep things going.
And in my business, singles can turn into doubles. So doubles can turn into triples based on things that are completely out of our control.
Well, and that's the nice thing about having a long time horizon on your deals. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter if you could have overpaid for land 30% back in 2015. You could have overpaid for construction 30%. if you just held it for 10 years, you still would have tripled, quadrupled your money.
Yeah, potentially. Now we get promoted based on an IRR, and that clock is ticking. So, the deal we're about to sell took us longer than it needed to take by 10 months, and we had a lot of overruns. So, things that I can't really control. We had some mistakes in the field on the construction side, bad subs, fired subs, litigation, this and that, just stuff that just took time and cost money. And that could have, would have, should have been a great deal. Should have had a really low basis on a garden deal, and we would have sold it, and I would have bought a beach house. Well, it didn't work out that way, and that's just the way it is.
Get the next one.
That's right. I mean, the next one that I may not think is going to be great in today's world, when we actually go to sell it, it could be. Things could change, post-election or whatever. Again, things that we can't control, but you just kind of keep shooting shots, and eventually, you'll have your doubles, triples, and home runs.
I mean, it's like we were talking about right before we went live. I mean, I was telling you about the Salt Ranch project and how it took us 2 years to finally get our permits for that. I mean, is it going to be as great of a deal as it was before? I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's who knows? I wasn't expecting for it to take a year and a half to get permits, right? I mean, there are things in development that you can never anticipate, and I think that's why you gotta be willing to take the risk if you want to be a developer.
Yeah, there's so much you can't control, but I think that the really good developers just try to keep a level head and try to control as much as possible, not react, but be proactive, of course, and just mitigate as much risk as possible. But you got to take risk. You got to risk it to get the biscuit.
That's it. That's exactly it, man. I mean, real estate developers make the amount of money they do for a reason.
That's right.
We got a couple of questions from the audience real quick. So Stan's got a follow-up question. He's saying, thanks, Tyler. For suburban rents, who is the renter? Are they commuting to the CBD, or are they working in the suburbs?
Great question. I'd say about half and half.
Okay.
I'm trying to think about our suburban deals, both of which right now are southeast of town. Southeast of Nashville, you've got Murfreesboro, a big job market. So we have a good handful of workers that live in our deal and commute southeast, and maybe the husband comes into downtown, or there's a job, there are jobs right around there. So I think it's about half and half. It can be all over the board, honestly, but it's a good question. A lot of suburban has to do with school districts and really proximity to schools.
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee's public education isn't great, but if you can build a deal near a school that is a couple minutes, for mom to take son and then get on to work, we found that can be really helpful and have a good impact on getting people in the door and heads in beds.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Derek is saying, do you think modular real estate developers will have the potential to go into apartment developments? Why and why not?
What is your definition, I guess, since I can't ask
modular?
you? Yeah, modular.
I mean, my definition would be prefab, manufactured in a warehouse, shipped out to site and assembled.
Okay.
Kind of like, we've seen a couple of projects here in Nashville that were supposed to be that, made out of storage containers that didn't quite get there.
Yeah, storage containers, I think, ended up being a bad idea.
Yeah.
Hard to apply anything to, hard to insulate, hard to waterproof.
Well, the problem is, as soon as you pierce the wall, it's every aspect of a storage container is structural.
Yeah.
So if you
that's right.
If you penetrate the walls, you completely compromise.
Yeah,
it.
every rib, right, is So what we are seeing in our industry is prefab walls, where they'll bring in walls and tilt them up instead of framing them on site. But I know that it has been worked on, tried, and it's not a part of our business right now. Now, what you are seeing and what a lot of the institutional guys are doing to kind of stay in the game and keep getting deals done is we're just making our design very efficient. So instead of having 15 unit types, 7 or 6 different types of 2 beds and 8 different types of 1 beds, it's 2 1 beds, 2 2 beds, and a 3 bed. and they all stack. So I mean, to some extent, they're modular, but they're not being constructed in a modular way. So, but said another way, the 2-bedroom can fit in the 3-bedroom, and the 1-bedroom can fit in. So they all stack inside of each other, and what that does is that makes it very quick to build. It takes all the question out of what size lumber you need, how much drywall you need, how fast the framer is going to be on site, because they're just repeating everything. And the kitchens all back up to each other. The kitchens are all the same. So for the most part, a 2-bedroom that might be 1,200 feet and a 1-bedroom that's 700 feet, they have the same size kitchen. And again, that makes it easier for the cabinet guy, the countertop guy, and there's just less mistakes, and you can build it faster. So while the industry, of course, has moved in a modular direction, we're not bringing in boxes, and I don't know that we're going to see that in the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's just too complicated. Now, I would love to be wrong, because that would make our job a lot easier.
Well, it's a hyper localized thing too, right? It's not like you can order that from Texas and have 250 units shipped here. You know how many trucks that would take? I mean, that's the problem, is like you'd have to do it on site or down the street. It becomes too much of a burden. But I love the design aspect of that, right? Because it really does matter when you're getting into efficiency of units, especially at a 250 plus unit scale. I mean, just on our 48 key boutique hotel, we eliminated a half wall of tile and saved $75,000.
Right.
Like that's how, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking about a little bit of tile, but when you start to multiply it over 250 units, it really starts to add up.
Absolutely. And keeping things consistent gives you more buying power. So we obviously put pendants over every island, and vanity lights over every bath. But a lot of, back in my creative, urban days when we were doing that, you're doing 2 or 3 different unit finish types. That's just confuses the guys on site. It's more expensive. You can't find this. You got to find that. It's just, so simplifying everything makes everything faster and cheaper. And speed is super important in this business. The faster that we can deliver that first unit and start generating income, the faster we can get that debt, start getting the debt paid off, and just kind of get to break even and stabilize property.
That's right. Yeah. Andrew, any advice or last words just on people that are looking for multifamily development? Maybe they're looking at getting started in multifamily development, or they're out there trying to find and analyze deals today.
Yeah. Know your market. I like to bring in people that don't have any experience, that are hungry and smart. And the first thing that I do is tell them to just be a master of the market. So what does that mean? Knowing what every deal that's going up, that's being talked about, that's planned, that's under construction, that's in lease up. And if it's in lease up, how much, what are the market rents? What are their effective rents? Why is this unit doing bad? Why is that unit doing good? And just all that information is out there, right? And that's just kind of beating the streets. And I really encourage my team to shop deals a lot. Walk in there, and you can blind shop it, but we don't even have to do a ton of that. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a local real estate investor. I've been watching this project go up. Super excited about it. Super interested in it. Could you tell me about it? Could I do a tour? And then 9.5 times out of 10. Once that tour starts, you build a relationship with that leasing agent. She'll tell you everything. Yeah. So knowing your market is the best way to get started. And if you get that opportunity, spend the next 3 months of your life. Don't do anything else other than just learning your market, becoming a master of your market. At the end of the day, my job is to find opportunities for institutional investors to cut that $50, $60, $70 million check to me. They're not going to do that unless they are 100% sure that I am a master of that market. That's it.
Andrew, phenomenal conversation, man. If anybody out there wants to follow what you're doing, check in on Wood Partners, or maybe we got some institutional investor that wants to give you a check for $70 million. How can they find you?
I'm not real fancy. I don't have a lot of social media, no podcasts or anything. I guess just go to the Wood Partners website. I think my picture's on there, Maybe my email address. if you're an institutional investor, call Tyler. He'll call me. But yeah, we try to kind of fly under the radar to some extent. But it's been great. I appreciate you letting me come here, and this is fun. First ever podcast. Appreciate the opportunity.
Studio.
Yeah,
It was fun.
all right, man.
All right, Andrew, appreciate you, man.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all for joining. We'll see y'all later. Are you looking to take the next step toward investing in commercial real estate but don't know where to go? CRE Central offers a comprehensive education and coaching platform designed to help you get started. Our online courses cover a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals to advanced strategies, ensuring you have the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in this competitive industry. As a member, you'll gain access to our exclusive online community and monthly group coaching calls, providing you with valuable networking opportunities and personalized guidance from experienced professionals. Whether you're a beginner or looking to take your career to the next level, CRE Central has the resources you need. Visit www.crecentral.com to learn more.